Welcome to the Everyday GSD podcast. Today's special guest is Joni Michels.
Darin, thank you so much to be here. We met a few weeks ago, and I told you I'm a little nervous about this because I'm not used to being interviewed. I'm used to doing the interview.
Well, you know, and I appreciate that, and it's funny because I have your extensive background in front of me here that I've had time to look over and review. But it's interesting because I had one of your friends on the show a little while back, and she was the same way because she is a TV personality, radio personality as well. And it was interesting because she felt uncomfortable because she wants to ask the questions. And when Justin obviously introduced us together, I thought you would be a perfect fit for the show because, and normally I would go through and introduce you and talk about all these amazing things. You know, you've got amazing hobbies. You've got, you even told me about your strange little facts about you. But
it just means I'm a relic. I've been around a long time in this market.
But for the people who don't know you, so I don't have to go into, I just don't want to say, you know what, I can read this and say you were on the, Fox 59 News, you were a TV anchor, you were the Adventures of Indiana Joni, you had an Emmy Award-winning host and writer. You've got an extensive background and career in the TV radio personality world. So you truly are an everyday GSD person. And you also are a caregiver for my mother right now.
Before that, I was a caregiver for my father.
Right. And your father was a veteran?
Yes, my father was in the Korean War. He was in
airborne, right? Yes.
And he was also a sharpshooter. Just an amazing man who, came out of, you're seeing combat. Hand-to-hand combat, from that war.
Right.
And, you think about the young men, that he served with and stuff, and you're looking to your right and you're looking to your left. And unfortunately, most of those men, did not come home.
Right.
So, you come back from that and it's like, how do you go through something like that and you come back to be such a compassionate man? You're not jaded, you're very giving, because I know a lot of our vets, unfortunately,
Justin just gave me this because my face is sweating.
I sweat. You know what? Sometimes when you're on the air, it's just this adrenaline thing, and you do kind of start sweating.
I don't feel like I'm sweating, but thank you, Justin.
But I might have you get me one in a minute, Justin. I'm okay right now because I've got my ice water. But
and sorry I didn't get you your iced tea.
Oh, that's okay.
Yeah.
I'm an iced tea lover. But the water is fine. But I think my point was with our vets and my dad, I'm just amazed at how well that they can be adjusted. But I know that a lot of them do need help coming back, and getting that help is so important.
Absolutely.
And I'm a big proponent of that. I know you are too. So
we could do a whole show on
do a whole show on that. But basically, my dad was my hero, and he guided me and gave me so much great life advice, and it carries me through this day.
I love it. Well, let's talk about some of that advice that he gave you, because obviously, as I said, you have an extensive background in the radio TV personality world, and that's I hope I'm not demeaning that or not saying that properly, but that's kind of where, when I started doing some homework on you, for lack of a better word, Justin, after we met, obviously he was kind enough to introduce us, and you take time out of your day to have a couple drinks with us so we could get to know each other, and then obviously for coming on the show today. But I want my listeners to learn about you and what your journey in life was to get you to where you are today. So if a guy or a girl is watching this show or listening to this show, they can get nuggets from your life skills, because at the end of the day, you kick ass every day.
I try to.
Yes.
But I do feel like I get a lot done in every day. I have a list. I will say that. I think but I think if you want to get things done,
right,
and you have a lot going on, you need a game plan. It doesn't mean I get everything done on my list every day. No. but at least, maybe I get the top 3 done.
Right.
And I don't have to feel so crappy about myself if, maybe I didn't get all 10 done. But I would say advice for somebody maybe that wants to get into broadcasting. For me, it was, I'm just going to start and backtrack if I can a little bit.
Yeah. Let's actually, so
when I was like, when I was young,
you're a little kid.
When I was young, I was that kid that, I kind of knew what I wanted to do from an early age.
Okay.
So when I was 5 years old, I was that kid that would sit at the dinner table, and when we would have family or friends or guests come over, I would start interviewing them. Like it was like a little Q&A. And then I got for Christmas the Mr. Microphone that, I think a lot of kids got when they were. So I would take my Mr. Microphone around and interview people and start, recording on my little cassette. And then, you get a little older, and in junior high, I kind of started doing these mixed tapes where I would kind of do my own radio show and introduce, like, maybe I would have a guest, or it would be no guest. I would pretend I, would have a guest.
Pretending to interview someone.
Yeah, pretending to interview someone. So I really guess I kind of had my love of it, or I kind of thought I was interested in it at an early age.
Right.
Having a drink right now. I'm a little thirsty. So then it's, junior high, I thought, well, this is kind of cool. It would be kind of fun to, like be able to tell people stories, or, be in the, just be in the thick of it, like in the excitement of it. And in high school, I was, I was the yearbook editor, and I was into, the drama club and TV and radio. So it's kind of like a mix of things. So at that point, though, it really wasn't like I had a vision, though, of this is what I actually want to do. It was just, I had a little taste of everything. And I actually thought, by the time I was out of high school, I thought, I want to write. I want to go into print journalism, and I want to write. And that's really kind of what I was focused on. So I get to college. I went to Indiana State. And
shout out to Indiana State.
Shout out to Indiana State, but that's a long story too, because I transferred to IU. Okay, so that's a whole nother story. Why, a guy was involved. I'm going to say that much. So I'm at Indiana State, for a couple of years, and then I transferred to IU. But it was through those experiences, though, when I got to IU, that people doing the radio and the TV classes were asking me to help them with their projects. And I'm like, well, I'm a journalism major. I'm into print, and I want to write, and I want to work for a magazine.
Right.
I don't really want to, do all this kind of crazy stuff. But they would come to me, and I would help them with commercials, or they were doing like a TV show, and so they'd ask me to help them with that. So I kind of thought, well, maybe this is what I want to do, And then I went and I took a tour, because you get credit when you're in college for like doing things like going to a TV station. You take a tour of it, you ask questions, they give you credit. So I went over to public television, Channel 20 at the time, and I was there, and they were doing this live TV auction. I'd never seen anything like it.
A live TV
auction.
Okay.
Where they auction off items. It's for public television. Right. And this director came out of nowhere, and he said, oh my gosh, he's like, we need somebody on camera 3. Our camera 3 operator is sick. Can you fill in? And I'm like, I'm just here to get credit. So I got thrown into live TV running camera 3. I'll never forget it, because I did a horrible job. Because the director who asked me to step in, he's like, well, you take radio and TV classes, don't you? And I'm like, yeah. And he goes, well, hop on there. So I'm on there, and then the whole time I'm hearing, camera 3, what are you doing? You're not panning, you're tilting. What are you doing? So that was, I guess, my first taste of real, broadcast TV
Right.
was, being thrown on a camera and doing a live auction. I had no idea what I was doing.
And this is in college.
This is
Right.
This is when I was at IU. So, to make a long story short, the guy ended up hiring me on weekends. I would drive back and do PA stuff. You're
Right.
running camera, setting up audio. You're doing lighting. You're doing all kinds of stuff like that. He's like, you know how to do this stuff. And I'm like, yeah, I know how to do it. I did not know how to do it. But see, that is part of it. You fake it until you make it. You know a little bit about it, and it's kind of like you have that opportunity, so you have to seize it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
The door opens, you got to go through it.
And that's part of getting stuff done.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah.
It's like, you've got the background, you're exposed to it, but when you're at the right place at the right time, you have to be confident enough to just jump in there and grab it. And like I said, fake it until you make it. Now, luckily, he was a really cool guy. And he said, you know what? I can tell that you don't really, you know what you're doing, but you're just not good at it. Yes. So you're going to come in on the weekends and we're going to practice.
Right.
So I would go in on the weekends and, really practice my camera operating and my lighting and all that kind of stuff.
And you were doing this while you were still in college.
While I was still in college.
Right. So then you graduate college and then you...
Well, no, after that, I was still, let's see, that was like my sophomore year, I guess. Then I was end of my junior year, I was still at Channel 20, and they built this brand new TV station. It was right there on Meridian Street. So all the TV stations were on Meridian Street, like 14th and Meridian, 16th and Meridian. You had Channel 8, like at 16th and Meridian. Channel 13 was just a couple blocks, south of that. Well, there was a brand new TV station being built, Fox 59. It really wasn't Fox at the time.
Okay.
It was actually called WPDS. And it was this independent station. And people were like, what is this? Because, at the time, remember, back in the day, you only had the three big networks, right?
Right.
You had CBS, you had NBC, you had ABC.
Right.
Fox was not born yet.
Right.
Fox is a lot younger than all those networks.
Right.
So this TV station called WPDS 59, TV 59, they were going on the air. They had a lot of brilliant people behind it. Chris Duffy was a general manager at the time who had been at Channel 13 for years. Jim Borgioli, one of the most brilliant engineers in the city of Indianapolis, built that from ground up. You had Mike Sanders. Anybody who knows about TV production and directing knows his name. Kim Sanders was his wife. Do you know Kim? Do you know Mike and Kim?
I was going to intern at Sanders Group.
Yeah,
Right out of college.
Sanders Group. Well, Kim Sanders was a reporter for Channel 8 for many years, an excellent investigative reporter, and she was the news director. So they had this great group of people starting this new independent station.
Right.
And I obviously heard about it, and they had already signed on. They were already on the air, not for long, but they've been on the air for a while. I want to say maybe almost a year. So I thought, I'm going to go over there and get a job. It's like, I'm working over here at Channel 20, but it's like, I want to go over there. It's like, I want to work, they're doing news and all kinds. It's like, I want to go over there. So I remember walking across the street because Channel 20 was just across the street from 59. So I walk over there and I'm like, because, that's the other thing about when you're young, not dumb, but just young and you don't know yet. You're not afraid to do stuff like that, but you also have to, like I said, you have to want it.
Right.
You have to want to cross the street and walk in there and say, I want to speak to the news director. And they're like, who are you? I'm Joni, and what do you want? I want to work here. And then they're like, well, what do you do? Well, I go to IU.
And you're like, I work across the street.
Yeah, right. I did. I said, well, right now I work across the street. So, but it was just, it's wanting it enough to do that, to get it done, to step. Oh God, you're showing my 80s hair. So yes. So anyway, to make a long story short, I go over there. I talk to Kim. She's the news director. We hit it off great. I'm from New Palestine. She's got a New Pal connection. So, we kind of hit it off, and she's like, but kid, she called me kid, but kid, she's like, I don't really have anything right now. She's like, you're at IU. And I said, I know, but I'm here on the weekends, or she said, well, I'm going to keep your resume. And she goes, we'll keep in touch. So I kept in touch with her. I would call her about every month. Because, you don't want to be too, you don't want to call every day.
You don't want to be too pushy, but at the same time, you want to make sure that they keep hearing your name.
I want to stay top of mind.
Yeah.
So I would check in with her every month. And she's like, it's just, we're still a pretty small station. They actually had 59 employees. They signed on as TV 59, and they had 59 employees.
Oh, that's funny.
Very small. So I get this phone call from her one day. I remember I was coming back from I think it was one of my journalism classes. And she's like, hey kid, she goes, I need to hire somebody. She's like, as a news assistant or assignment editor. Are you interested? I'm like, yeah. And she goes, well, it's overnights. She goes, you'll be here from midnight to 7 a.m. I'm like, I'll take it. I'll do it. So that's how I got my foot in the door. So I would go to work overnights, drive back to IU, for my classes during the day.
When did you sleep?
In class. In class. So that's how I got my foot in the door there. And then, I was a news assistant and became a news producer, did some reporting also. You just kind of, work your way up and kind of find your niche.
When did you get your first show?
The Fox 59 Kids Club.
I
was a news assistant. I was still producing and doing news, and they're like, we want to do this kids club where we have kids come into the studio and all this kind of stuff, and they go, we think you'd be pretty good at hosting it. And I'm like, really? You do? I think it's because they're like, okay, you're going to show cartoons. You're going to have the kid. I get to watch cartoons. Okay. That was the first, I guess, solo project that I did at Fox 59 was the Fox 59 Kids Club.
And how long was that on?
I was on for several years.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It was on for a while.
It was on for a while.
Yeah.
And at first it was live, which was interesting because you bring live kids into a studio, and sometimes you have animals. I will say that is the best training for live television ever. If you can handle kids and animals together at the same time, you can handle anything.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
The kids are running around. You've got animals on just acting all amok.
Yeah, we had this clubhouse set. Okay, it looked like a clubhouse. Kids could come in and they would write their name on the wall, like if they were on the show. Sometimes they would be like Girl Scout troops or Boy Scout troops or just, a group of friends. They would sign up ahead of time to be on the show. And, their parents would bring them on. We do like kind of a roll call where they get to say hi to somebody special at home.
Right.
We had a special, there was a sidekick that she came on the show later. She was a friend of mine. I ended up hiring her as my assistant. Her name was Ellen. And we created a character for her. She was Global Girl. She would come on the show and we would talk about different parts of the world and things that were going on, with kids in a different part of the world. And then I had a mail carrier that would come on and like bring in mail and stuff that was like, that we would read to the kids, like it was from a cartoon character or something.
And now, did you create the show?
I did.
So you created the show and then hosted the show.
And I think that's where I really discovered I liked television, and I liked being in the newsroom, and I was still, I thought, okay, I'm still using my journalistic, background. But I think where I really fell in love with television was when I was doing that kids club, because I discovered that I like producing. I like coming up with a concept.
Okay.
Seeing that concept through, seeing something from start to finish. I have a vision for it. This is what I want it to look like. This is what I want it to sound like. And I think that is where I really fell in love, I guess, with television as a medium.
Right.
Because it was like, and doing it live was amazing, because there's just that connection that you have with your studio audience when it's live.
When you can't fake it when it's live. You
can't fake it when it's live. And then you've got the kids there. It's all live. And it was really like, that's really when I felt the moment that like, this is it.
This is your passion.
This is my passion. It was like, okay, I really always thought, I want to work for print, work for a magazine,
right.
Journalism like that. But then I was like, no, this is how I want to tell a story. Yeah. It's like, I want to produce. It's like, I want to produce, and, I don't just want to be a host. And, a lot of people, you host, your scripts are written for you. Everything is produced around you. But right. I enjoy that aspect of it.
The producing
side of it. Yeah. Because it's like you have a vision and you know how you want to get there, and it's exciting to see other people like get on board with your vision, and
right.
And then, then there's that creative brainstorming where maybe you thought you wanted to go one way and you talked to a couple other people, and it just becomes bigger. So, so the Kids Club was really cool. But I will say, when you're doing live TV with kids, anything can happen, because when we used to let them say their name in the morning.
What's the funniest thing that's ever happened with the kids?
So we had these two little brothers that were on the show. One was 4, and I think the other one was probably 6 or 7.
Oh, so like really,
they were brothers,
young kids.
Yeah. So it's like, okay, and so I've got my microphone, and talking to, okay, so what's your name? And he's like, I'm Terry, and I want to say hi to, my teacher, Mrs. Miller,
right.
Whatever. So then his brother is right next to him. And so I'm like, what's your name? And he was very shy, and he didn't say it. He was like, and the brother who had just said hi to the teacher, like, takes my microphone. Okay, there's lesson 1. You don't let that happen. But he takes my microphone out of my hand, and he goes, his name is Butthole.
This little kid said that?
His brother. Yeah, because his brother wouldn't talk.
Right.
He was shy.
So he's Butthole.
So his brother takes the mic out of my hand, and he goes, oh, his name is Butthole. Like, their mother was so upset. She like flew, after we went to commercial break, she's like, what are you doing? So anyway, that's, you just kind of learn, in different settings. Okay, lesson to me, you control the microphone.
Yeah, don't give the microphone to a little kid.
When you have little kids. But yeah, that was funny. That was hilarious. But one of the most heartwarming things about the show was, I would say, this kid, I don't know, he was young when he was on the show, and then when he was a teenager, I ran into him out at Deer Creek, Verizon, whatever, it's been named so many things. So I'm never going to forget it. That I was out there. It was actually a Van Halen show. And so I'm out there, and this kid comes up to me, and he's like, you're Joni Michels, aren't you? And I said, yes. And he goes, I know there's no way you remember me, but I was on your kids club. And I'm like, really? And he goes, yes. And I just want to tell you, he goes, that was one of the coolest things that I ever got to do.
Oh, that's super cool.
And I was like,
that made you feel good.
It did, because that was one of the shows where we would kind of take kids different places, because I also wanted them to learn something. Yeah, it's fun to watch the cartoons, but as the show progressed, I wanted them to learn something. So I think he was on the segment. I did a segment once on like caring for your pet. This is how you care for your pet, and like when you go to the vet, you do this and this. And so I think he was on one of those episodes. But anyway, he said, yeah, he goes, that was so cool. I'm never going to forget it. And he goes, you taught me how to, care for my dog and like how to get it to the vet and all that. And I was like, oh, that's really cool. I mean, that first of all, I was able to run into him. And
at a Van Halen concert.
At a Van Halen concert.
At Deer Creek.
Yeah. I'm like, don't mind that I'm drinking this beer, kid, but no. But yeah, so I don't know. That was really, very heartwarming.
So after that show, where'd you go from there in your career?
Well, I was still at Fox 59.
Okay.
Doing the kids club, and then they kind of threw me back into news. So I kind of found myself, back in the newsroom. Kids clubs too are very cyclical. They're around for 4 or 5 years and then they go away for 4 or 5 years. It's a whole sponsorship thing, network thing.
Right.
So anyway, no, I'm still at Fox 59, and I kind of started, maybe it was my passion for producing, but I kind of started taking over. We did a lot of telethons too back in the day. We did like MDA and that's the Jerry Lewis telethon, MDA.
Yeah.
There was one for the National Arthritis Foundation. We did also we did 3 or 4 telethons over at Fox. And
do they do telethons anymore?
Not as much. Because back in the day, I mean, every TV station had.
Right.
They were known
because like the
for
Jerry Lewis. I remember as a kid watching that.
Yes.
And that was they would raise a lot of money.
A lot of money. Yeah. And Fox 59, we like I said, we had 3 or 4 that we did that we were committed to, and which is a huge undertaking. a telethon. It takes a long time to get one of those produced. So to make a long story short, I kind of fell into the role of producing our telethons. I was working in news, and Mike Sanders, who was our production manager, he was married to Kim Sanders, our news director.
Which Justin.
Which was kind of like, well, they didn't really have anybody, to
right.
Dedicated time to produce those. So anyway, I started producing the telethons, and so I produced those and hosted those, and you line up all the other people that are coming in. It's like a year-long project when you're doing a telethon.
Really?
Yeah, because the organization that you're working for, there are fundraisers going on every month for it that you'll go out and cover, and shoot,
right.
And whatever the event is. There are also, like, usually we went to Las Vegas, but there's always a national meeting of every TV station that's hosting a telethon, like for MDA.
Like a trade show?
Kind of. Everybody will go to Las Vegas. And at the time, Jerry Lewis would always come out and say hi to you. And so it was usually your producer and your director would go out there. And that's where they give you this book that shows you, okay, this is going to be the clock for the telethon. At the top of the hour, Jerry Lewis is going to do this. This is going to be live, and that's going to be national. And then we're going to come to your local stations at maybe a quarter after the hour. You're going to have a 5-minute window. Okay, then you're going to rejoin network. Then after that, we're going to come back to you, and you're going to do another local segment, and then you got to rejoin network live. So when you're producing, you have to know you have to know what's going on nationally, but also within your local window, what you're putting in your local window.
What happens if you miss that window?
Oh, then you're in big trouble.
Yeah, right.
You're going to see.
Yeah, for sure.
You're going to see just black.
Right.
Yeah, and you're going to lose money.
And you're going to lose your job.
And you're going to lose. You could, I guess. But so anyway, it was, again, I really enjoyed, again, the whole, producing aspect of,
right.
Here's kind of the vision. That's kind of how you put it together. There's obviously a lot of teamwork involved. a lot of different moving parts to coordinate. So, yeah, so I did that, you know, for a while. They made me the community affairs manager. That was probably because, again, I wanted to do it. It was like going back to that, you know, you get stuff done.
Yeah.
It was like, okay, nobody's doing these telethons. I mean, I'm doing them, but then it's also, you know, with all these nonprofit groups that come in, it's like, who's handling them and their needs? Because as a broadcaster, it's your duty to serve the community. It really is.
Well, say that again.
As a broadcaster,
Right.
It is your duty to serve the community.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
you're like a window to the community.
Right.
And it really is, and I'm very passionate about that. And so I was like,
I think that's important for people to know.
it is totally, because when you think about it, I mean, yes, that's where you're getting your information. Maybe you're getting your news from there, but it's also important to be part of the community as a broadcaster.
Do you think
it's your due diligence?
Do you think in your career, and this is, I know you're going to say yes for sure, but the difference of how the news has changed from trying to persuade you in one direction or actually giving factual information of what's going on?
Well, I definitely think some of the other now your local news, I still think that they're pretty, you know, that they're reporting the news. You know,
Right.
This is the news. They're not interjecting their, you know, their beliefs. But when you get into some of these cable news networks and stuff, those are definitely personalities
Right.
They're delivering news, but they're also delivering their take on it.
Yeah, their version of it.
Their version of it.
Right.
Yeah. So.
Which is somewhat misleading to people that get sucked into
Right.
watching one specific station.
And I would say, and this is, I think, a part of getting stuff done for anybody on a daily basis. It's up to you to seek out your news. Don't just go to one place.
Right.
I mean, that's not the Holy Grail, right? I
Right.
mean, you know, there are a lot of different podcasts out there. There are, outside of cable news, you know, there are a lot of different networks that you can watch. You can still go online and read, because I know a lot of people don't take a newspaper anymore, but there's a lot of different outlets out there where you can find information.
Right.
Because there's always a gatekeeper. Whatever news organization you're working for, there's always a gatekeeper. When I was an assignment editor overnight, you're kind of shaping the news for the next day. It's kind of like, here's what's going on, and you're feeding information to these producers who are then going to take that and shape their newscast.
Right.
So what I mean by a gatekeeper is there's so much information out there, but that gatekeeper is only taking a sliver of it.
Yeah, no,
Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it totally makes sense. And but I think the interesting thing is you have, like, let's say 3 stations, and they're all getting the same information,
Right.
most of the time. And then it's how are they going to be able to deliver that message better than the other station so that you would continue to watch Joni?
Well, it's going to depend on a lot of things. It's going to depend on the news director.
Right.
You know, what kind of news director do you have? Do you have the old back in the day, if it bleeds, it leads? That was a, you know,
Yeah.
that's what they say in the news. If it bleeds, it leads. Okay. It sounds gross, right?
Right.
But it's true. So do you have, like, is that kind of like the tone of your newsroom? The tone is set by the news director.
Right.
It's also set by your reporters and their
Right.
style. You know, are they great storytellers? Some reporters are just chop and dice. Other reporters tell a story. So I think a lot of it comes down to your talent,
Right.
and how able they are to tell a story. Because anybody can get the same story. Okay, let's say there was a hit and run at 10th and Holmes downtown.
Right.
So it's just a matter of, how are you going to present that story?
Right.
Or will you even do that story?
Or will you even do that story?
Will you even do that? That's why, again, it comes down to the tone of the newsroom, who your news director is, who your producer is. Will they even do that story? Because as you know, you'll see a story, it's the lead story on ABC, but it's not the lead story on NBC. It might be way down at the newscast.
And that has to do with the producer.
That has to do with the producer and the gatekeeping. So that's why I just think people should, like I said, get out there, expose yourself to as much information as you can.
I think that's a really good tip.
Yeah.
Especially, I think, in today's world, we have so many people that will turn on one news station,
right,
and they get sucked into that station, and all of a sudden, that's the world.
Right.
That's the world they're living in.
Yeah, and I just think that that's kind of scary because our world just changes so much on a daily basis. So anyway, yeah. So as far as news goes. I mean, well, I'm sorry. I think I took us on a whole nother direction.
That's a good thing with this podcast. You can do that.
But I spent a lot of time though. I spent a lot of time at Fox. I worked there 2 times, so I left Fox.
So when you left Fox, where'd you go?
When I left Fox the first time, I was the community affairs manager. I had done the kids show, and I was working in news. That's when how do I say this? This is going to sound weird. No. I ended up going to Atlanta for a while. It was. I thought I wanted to go. I did find it. I found a job there. It was at the CBS affiliate. I thought I wanted to go, but the reasons I wanted to go really were not my own. I didn't. Had it not been for the relationship that I was in,
right,
I probably would not have gone.
Yeah, you chased a guy there.
Yeah. Well, we were together for a long time, and he was also in the business.
So
he took a job in Atlanta, and so it was like, okay, well, this is going to be a great job for you, but I can find a job. And I did. I mean, so I did find a job, but it wasn't really, it was at the CBS affiliate, and I was doing a reporter on their morning show. So I wasn't getting, I found out, when I got there and I got into the job, there wasn't that creative process.
So then you ended up coming back to 59?
I did end up coming back, but I didn't go back to 59. I went back to Channel 6.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what were you doing there?
Or TV 6. I was in the in the helicopter every morning. So I was doing traffic from Skycam 6.
Skycam 6.
Yeah.
I read that.
Yeah, Skycam 6.
How
that
fun
was the best office. I call it my office in the sky. It was the best.
Right.
I go to the heliport every morning. We had our Channel 6 had their helicopter there. That's where the pilot was. And that's where because back at that time, every station had a helicopter. Remember that? Channel 13 had one. Channel 8. Flying Phil, yes.
My mom all the time.
Yes.
There were helicopter rides. It was fun.
Yes. So every station had a helicopter. Because it was like, who's going to get there first? That was back in the day, and who's going to get there first? So everybody had their own hangars. So it was like, so there was Channel 13, Channel 8, Channel 6, and IMPD also had their helicopter out of the same, So it was like a family. We all got to know each other, and it was a really good period of time, just to be able to, cover news from the helicopter, do traffic every morning.
Was that a competitive job for you to get that job?
Well, I would say so, because I don't think there are a lot of people, when you're up in this helicopter, you're reporting, but you're also, there's a camera up there in the helicopter, so you're getting the shots, okay? So you're in a helicopter, there's a camera up there, your own camera that you have to control for when you're on the air. The other camera is you're getting shots of what's going on. Does that make sense?
No, totally makes sense.
So
Absolutely.
there's a lot going on up there. Plus, you're also required to be a spotter for your pilot. Hey, because
watch out for that other helicopter.
You've got, there's a lot going on up there.
Right.
So,
It was fun.
mean, there is some skill set to being up there. I mean,
Nice.
yeah, you're not going to just throw somebody up there that
Doesn't know what
doesn't
doing.
have experience.
Right.
I guess is what I'm going to say.
So you did that for a few years?
Yeah.
And then what did you do after that?
Oh, God. Now I'm going back in my time machine here. What am I doing after
I
that?
got a list of stuff that you've done.
Well, then, yes, my husband, Matt, this is not the same. This is down the road. This is Atlanta guy. Atlanta guy is somebody different. So anyway, I got remarried, and anyway, so my husband Matt was offered a job in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Okay.
And so I was like, okay, it was a great job for him. And when I left Six, I went over to WFMS, and I was doing mornings with Jim and Kevin. Great guys, Jim Denny and Kevin Freeman.
Okay.
So we're doing the WFMS morning show, and then Matt gets a job in Charlotte. And it's like, well, guys, I guess I'm moving to Charlotte. And they're like, no, they go, you can't leave. I go, yeah, I don't really want to, but, it's like, when you're in a marriage, there's some give and take.
Absolutely.
And so I was like, okay, this is a really good opportunity for him. So we did it, and I took a job in Charlotte at the NBC affiliate. So I took a job doing there. I was doing like morning entertainment, news, and traffic. So, and I loved it. It was great. It was a brand new startup station, which was really cool. You don't get that very often in your career, and it's happened to me a couple times when I was at Fox, and you got this brand new baby, and then when I was in Charlotte, they had this brand new newscast that they're kicking.
Yeah, I can't imagine that happens often at all.
It doesn't. I mean, usually you're stepping into a newsroom that's been there, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years. So that was exciting. That was pretty cool.
So then you ended up coming back to Indy. When did you do the design show?
That's when I came back from Indy. So I'm in Charlotte, and we're in Charlotte, and my husband, the company, we're there a few years, and the company my husband's working for is being sold to another conglomerate, whatever. So we decide to come back to Indy because they're going to open an office in Indy. I'm like, well, this is good. I want to get home because my dad's not doing so well,
Right.
and I want to get back. So we did. We came back, and that's when I went back to Fox 59 the second time.
Okay.
Okay.
Right.
So they were starting this brand new morning show called the Fox 59 Morning Show. Do you remember that, Justin? The Fox 59 Morning Show. Yeah.
Your band played in it several times?
Yes. And that's kind of where I'm getting to Justin. So they're starting this new morning show, and when they're looking for people, what they call their cast. They didn't really call you a news person. It was a cast. So I already knew this show is going to be different. And it even said, this is not your mama's newscast. That's how they kind of described it. So I go back and I interview with Kevin Nunn, the news director, and he's like showing me around, and I'm like, I used to work here, right? But it was funny because it was like old home week, so I got to see, like, hey, Mike and Master Control, and he's like, you know everybody here, and I go, well, I used to spend a lot of time here. So I started the morning show, so it was people might remember Cody Stark was doing weather. You had Jordana Green, Clarence Reynolds, and so I was part of that team that
cast.
started that brand new morning show. And so within the morning show, it was kind of like I did a lot of, I did traffic, I did some entertainment stuff, but I also did a lot of reporting on the local music scene because I thought that was important. It was like, we have so many talented musicians here and nobody's really doing anything with them or for them. And it's like, this morning show is so different. It's like, why don't we have live bands on in the morning? And I remember when I brought that up in one of our news meetings, though, they were like, what? They're like, nobody does that in local morning TV.
And you're like, absolutely, that's right.
That's right.
That's why we're going to do it.
That's why we're going to do it. It's like, that's exactly why we're going to do it.
I don't see Justin's band playing on a morning show.
So, right. So anyway, I started like getting
a
these,
night show, yes.
Yeah, but I started, reaching out and getting these local bands on the Fox 59 morning show. So maybe like on a Friday morning, we'd have them on and, they'd play like 3 or 4 times throughout the show. It was a long show. It was like, at that time, it was 3 hours long. I think now they do like 5 or 6 hours of live morning news. But for the time, like 3 hours was a long time to do a morning newscast.
Oh, absolutely.
Because most newscasts were an hour.
And your show that you currently do is 4 hours long?
Yes.
And that's
Mornings with Greg and Joni. Yes.
Mornings with Greg and Joni.
WJJK.
And how long have you been doing that for?
I have been doing this show. We've been together 6 years. Yeah.
And what times it come on?
Our show starts at 6 a.m.
So what time do you get up and get ready?
4.
4.
Yeah.
GSDing it. 4 a.m.
Get it done.
Yeah.
Just like we got it done, right? Justin, when your band came on, Fox, it was like I said, it was like, we need to do something for these local bands and musicians. Let's get them on the show.
Yeah.
Let's get it done.
Yeah.
And people may look at you and go, that's weird. No. Why is it weird?
Right.
And now, Fox 59 is known for that. They have bands on all the time. And other stations, it's funny because they kind of tried to start doing that. I remember Channel 13, they kind of tried to start having some bands on and stuff. So I think you're doing something right because that's a compliment when...
Oh, yeah, when someone's trying to copy what you're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're going to do it their way and stuff, but
Right.
it's still, that's a compliment. So did you guys have fun when you were on the show, Justin?
It was like she said, it was back then that was, finally we had an outlet that was more than trying to drag all your friends to a bar. You know what
Right.
I mean?
Yeah.
A mainstream audience, it was
Yeah.
really awesome.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah. That was fun. It was great. And
So
like I said,
we talked about this before we started recording, because obviously you've been doing this for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And when I spoke with your friend who was on a little while before,
Right.
and we talked about being a TV personality or radio personality, you're in the public eye. So that's a good thing. You're
Right.
able to deliver good messages, but then the sometimes the bad side of that is there's some crazies out there.
oh yeah. Yeah. Yes, there are. I think it's kind of knowing though too, when somebody's harmless, and I'm a firm believer in kindness matters.
Right.
And sometimes
And you can tell.
some people are just lonely, and maybe that's why they're reaching out. When I was at Fox 59 the second time around, there was somebody who reached out to me, would email me every day. Okay. After a while, that can be a little,
Yeah.
because I do try to respond.
Right.
But I remember at times there would be a period where maybe I did not respond back that day, and I would get, oh, well, who do you think you are? You just think you're better than anybody else and don't respond back. So in my reply, I would say, sometimes I don't even get to talk to my best friend every day. Sometimes, stuff
Right.
is going on. I'm sorry. I said, but I do try and write back, or say a little something. I said, but you can't, you're not in my shoes. I'm not in your shoes. So it's kind of like you don't want to make them mad because you don't maybe know what they're capable of. So I think it's just kind of maybe you can establish boundaries though sometimes with people like that. Now there are other people though where I had this person. I started getting jelly beans,
and this is what we're talking about.
We're talking
stalker.
about people. Yeah,
they're stalkers.
I used to get jelly beans that would arrive at the station every Friday, and I'm like, well, who is sending me these jelly beans? The receptionist is like, I don't know. She's like, they're just here from Jelly Belly was the company. No. So I called the jelly.
You're not going to eat the jelly beans, Justin?
I called the Jelly Belly place and I'm like, why are you sending me these? And they go, well, someone has paid an order to have these jelly beans delivered to you every Friday. And I'm like, well, can you tell me who it is? And I guess, I don't know why they wouldn't or couldn't or whatever.
Jelly bean code.
It was weird. And so then I'm at the St. Patrick's Day Parade. And I am there with Brian Wilkes, and we're riding in the parade together. You know, you're in the horse-drawn carriages, for the St. Patty's Day Parade. So we're sitting there laughing, and all of a sudden, this guy would refer to him as a his email had vampire in it. Thought he was a vampire.
Okay.
So it's a little odd.
Yeah, not crazy at all.
No.
Yeah.
But anyway, so he comes up at the St. Patrick's Day Parade. I'm sitting there with Brian, and this guy from nowhere just kind of walks up. He's got on this long, dark trench coat and this long, and this like dark, like leather fedora looking like hat. He looked like the guy from Van Helsing. Okay. And Brian, who knew what was going on, he goes, "That's Dark Vampire." I'm like, "No." And he goes, "I guarantee it." So he did. He comes up to it and he's like, "Hi, Joni." And then he introduced himself. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So I actually kind of met him. And you just have to know sometimes when things are kind of like spiraling out of control. I mean, it can happen.
And it's scary.
It is scary because you don't, like I said, you don't want to make people... sometimes you can make somebody. Are we allowed to swear on the show? No, I'm not going to.
Yes, you're allowed to swear.
No, I would say you don't want to piss.
Because the name of the show is Everyday GSD, which stands for Get Shit Done.
You don't want to piss people off sometimes because it can just make them mad. It can make it a lot worse. But you also have to know when, there is a time. Where
you try to
need a little help.
You try to de-escalate the situation. Then, unfortunately, sometimes it just can't happen.
Yeah. So, and we did, and actually, the station kind of stepped into at that point and said we really need to, contact authorities about that and stuff. But for the most part, it's not like something like that happens like all the time. It's usually just people that are overzealous. And they want to be, part of your life, or they just, they're, like I said, maybe they're feeling lonely. And for the most part,
you're so kind.
But it's
she's so kind. Because Christy did not say that. She used different vocabulary too.
I mean,
about the fucking stalkers.
You do have to be careful, though. Yeah. I will say, I had a stalk, and this was a female stalker. So it's not always just men.
Right.
And this girl was younger, and she would write me handwritten letters. I would, write her back sometimes, or and then she got an email address. That's right. And then she got an email address, so she would continue kind of writing to me, and I could tell she was really, because anytime I would go to an event, she would be at that event, and just kind of like, try to like almost like, glob onto me.
Yeah.
Kind of, sort of. And you don't want to be mean and just like get off me, but like maybe the hug was a little too long or too often. So anyway, she would show up at these events, and to make a long story short, I hadn't heard from her, and it was like a month. And I thought that was very odd because this is somebody that would write to me like almost every day or every other day.
Not creepy at all.
No, not creepy at all. So I actually got a phone call, and this lady said it was her grandmother, and she said, "I just want you to know, that she is in juvie because she tried to attack me." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is a whole nother level of crazy." I'm thinking, well, kind of like, okay, so why are you calling me? And she said, but anyway, I found she kept a journal, I guess. And in this journal, she wrote in there that you guys were supposed to go to a movie and you didn't show up, and you were supposed to take her Christmas shopping and you didn't show up. And there was this whole thing of things that I was supposed to be doing with her.
All made up.
All made up.
All made up in her head.
And then she was getting angry in there. Well, I'm gonna show her that, if she thinks she's too good to, So the grandmother goes, I just think that this is really like odd,
Yeah, right.
Plus the fact
that
the fact she tried to push her grandmother down the stairs, and that's why she's in juvie. So anyway, so the police did get involved with that, and I think they did put a restraining order on her so that when she got out, she was not supposed to come in like so many feet of me or the station or anything like that. But here's the weird thing.
Oh, there's more.
Yeah. So this was, for 2 years, didn't hear anything from her. So I'm thinking everything is fine. She's respecting the restraining order. So I joined this health club. Do you remember For Ladies Only? Mm-hmm. Okay. So they have a swimming pool and there's this sauna and all this kind of stuff. So I'm in the swimming pool, I'm doing my laps, and I look up and I see this girl, and I'm thinking, and I'm not using her name for a reason. I'm just going to.
Let's call her Sue.
Sue. That's not her name. So good. So I look up and I'm like, that looks like Sue. That can't be Sue. So I keep swimming my laps.
Oh, you're swimming. You're in the pool.
I'm in the pool swimming, and it's somebody showing her, like she wants to join the club.
Right.
And I'm like,
she wants to join your club.
I'm like, that looks like Sue. And nah, it can't be. So I keep swimming. So then I go into the sauna, and I'm sitting in there, and I'm by myself, which is no big deal. I mean, usually you love that,
Right, yeah.
So anyway, I'm sitting there, and somebody walks in and sits beside me, and it's her.
Sue.
It is Sue. It really was her.
Sue's back.
She's back. And she went, hi, and I went, hi. It was like a really hi, and I'm thinking, okay, how can I get out of here like as soon as possible? But I'm like, what are you doing here? And she said, she goes, well, I've been wanting to join a health club. And she goes, what are the chances that you would be here?
Oh,
and
right.
I thought, is this coincidence, or do you think? I don't know. Really, at that point, I just kind of said, I said, yeah, it's a nice club, but I have to go. And I just popped out. But the thing is I feel rude about it. I mean,
my goodness, she feels rude about it.
I just was like, I got to get out of here.
I would have immediately called the police.
I just hope she's
in the sauna.
I hope
Sue's
she's
in the
okay.
sauna.
Do you think I don't know. Yes. Yeah.
Do she hopes she's okay.
I hope she's okay.
Justin said you have the kindest heart, and it's so true. You're wishing that your stalker is okay.
I just want to make sure she's got the help she needs. So that's my crazy stalker story.
Oh, that's too funny.
But yes, our friend that was here, a few weeks ago. Yes, I know she's had some situations too.
Yeah, she was telling us some colorful stuff.
Right?
Yeah. It's crazy. And I have to imagine, and I'm sure guys have stalkers too, but it's you're a TV personality, you're a female, you're very pretty, you're intelligent. So your people are looking up to you, mm-hmm. But then there's the crazies that aren't looking up to you. They want to be you. They want to wear your skin. Like they're
right.
Yeah.
Or they're just strange.
Yeah.
I mean, you'll get letters like.
Did you ever find out who was sending you the jelly beans?
I did. And he actually turned out to be pretty harmless. And
Okay.
that's why, I mean, sometimes it's like, do you make the situation worse, or you just kind of, you know.
Can you somehow de-escalate it to move on?
Right.
Oh, I thought it was the Dracula guy sending the jelly beans.
No, the Dracula was the guy. That's right. That's right.
You de-escalate.
Yeah, I forgot it was the Dracula guy that did that.
But there are also people that, you know, gosh, how do I say this? I've also gotten some weird letters from people that'll be like, hey, do you have any broken bones? Have you ever had any broken bones? These people are out there. They're very scary.
Yeah, that's creepy.
And those are the people you just, you don't even really want to respond to and hope they go away. And usually, I mean, most stations have policies too, where if you get stuff like that, you're really supposed to, you know, like take it to somebody and let them keep it. I mean, I don't know. There's this whole world though of people out there though that, you know, I can't even imagine somebody that's like a really true celebrity, what they have to go, you know what I mean? Like,
oh yeah, it's I can imagine.
I'm nobody, but I mean, I can't.
Well,
even
you're not nobody.
I can't imagine though, you know, when you're at the height of, you know, some of these mega superstars and stuff.
Yeah.
The kind of security they have to have.
Let's talk about your accomplishments. What's your biggest accomplishment?
Well, personally, I would say my biggest accomplishment is that I'm able to be a caregiver for my mom, and I was able to be one for my dad, because there's just no greater honor. I had wonderful parents. They were always there for me, and I'm just glad I can be there for them. And it's also a different kind of relationship that you have through a caregiver role. You get to know them. Okay, you know, growing up, you know your mom and your dad, but when you're caring for them, you really get to know them more. It sounds weird, maybe,
like at a deeper level,
like at a deeper, like a person, or like more like a friend. Maybe you just get to know them a lot differently when you're a caregiver for them.
Right. And how long have you been a caregiver for your mother?
My father passed away in 2014, and her health started declining, I would say 3 years ago. Yeah. So, and I was a caregiver for my father for about 4 years. Yeah. So.
And did you volunteer at the VA or no?
Yeah. My dad, a veteran. My dad was at the VA several times. They actually saved his life when he came back from Korea. His stomach almost perforated. He was out of the Army, but he had really severe ulcers, and he had like half a lung where he had been shot. And anyway, they went to a hospital in Hancock County from where we're at, and they were just like, nah, you're just, you know, you've been working in the yard, you're just having stomach issues. And so my mom knew something was wrong, so she put him in her car and she drove him to the VA, and they were like livid with this other hospital because
of course.
They're like, oh, what are you talking about? It's like his stomach was starting to perforate. So yeah, so they saved his life, and he was in the VA hospital. He was there almost a year.
Wow.
After that stomach perforation, and like I said, he had a problem with his lung and stuff. So so we really do try to give back, and he was always a big proponent of, trying to, help and do. And so the VA, we would go there and maybe read a story, to veterans. They appreciate that, and they like to tell their stories. And I think it's important to listen to those stories and share those stories.
I absolutely agree. 100%.
Yeah, well, obviously, with your background, I mean, you get stuff done every day.
We get shit done.
Yeah. But isn't that how you get stuff done, though? I mean, I
Absolutely.
think in your personal life, in your professional life, I think you have to have goals, and you just kind of every day, you have to kind of wake up every day and think.
And have a plan.
Have a plan.
Yeah. I always say 6 P's. Proper planning prevents poor performance.
Exactly. And they say the most successful people, are the people that early risers, and they've got their plans together. But I don't know that you need to be an early riser.
Well, you get up at 4 o'clock, so that's pretty early.
Yeah, that's pretty early.
That's pretty early.
But I think as long as you have a plan.
Yeah. So what's next for you? What are you something you're working on? Anything big?
Well, I love, I do like doing the freelance thing a lot. The style show that I did, it was called Design Your Life, Style with Barry and Joni. That was an independently produced a TV project. It was basically, about home and design. And my good friend Barry Lance, who is a very well-known interior designer, I knew for a long time, and it was like, we should do a show. There's so much, everybody's into home improvement, and your home is really your refuge, and that kind of thing. And it's like, we should do a show that showcases like Indiana and all the local cool stuff that's going on here. And so he also worked a lot with the people over at the Indiana Design Center here in Carmel. And so basically, I said, okay, I'm going to start this company. So I started this company, and
in your free time.
In my free time, I said I started this. I started this company, and I said, okay, let's put the show together. This is what it would look like. This is what it's going to sound like. And you can go to designyourlifestylewithbarryandjoni.com if you, it's on YouTube if you want to see some episodes of it. But anyway, so Barry and I.
So where can you see it? Say that one more time.
You can go to YouTube.
Okay.
And see episodes of it. It's called Design Your Lifestyle with Barry and Joni.
Okay.
Or if you just say Style with Barry and Joni on YouTube, you can see a lot of the episodes.
Okay, nice.
But the show aired, let's see. So when you're an independent producer, you buy your own airtime. So in other words, you go to a station and you think, okay, you have to find out, okay, what airtime do they have available? How much is it? What kind of ratings would I maybe be able to get in this time period? Because you have to sell your show. Okay. So you go out and you sell your show, then you have to go to the TV station and buy the airtime. So our show aired for 2 years. We were on RTV6, and then we were over on 4. So for instance, I go into the TV station and I say, okay, this is my show. This is what I'm looking at. What availability do you have? And then they'll say, because a show like this, you want it to be on like a Saturday or Saturday morning, like around 10.
Right. Has to be the right time.
Right time slot.
Yeah.
So once they say, well, this is our availability, then I'm like, okay, well, like what kind of rating time period is that? I want to see some of the ratings on that. You go through all that, and then so then basically I'm buying the airtime. Does that make sense?
Totally makes sense. Okay. Absolutely.
Because this is an independently produced show.
Right.
It's not one that the station is producing. So I own the show.
Correct.
I put the show together.
Yep.
I sell the sponsorship.
You're doing all the work.
Yes. So you're buying the airtime. So, but then you have to make sure too, the sponsors that you have, see, when you're putting this whole project together, this whole budget together, you have to make sure, then you have to figure out what you need to sell your show for to pay for your production, to pay for your crew, to pay for your airtime.
And then is the goal when you do your own show like that to sell the whole show to the network later?
Perhaps. I mean, yeah. That can happen, or like if the ratings are doing well, like we did really well in our time slot, then you can go back to your sponsors, and you might need a little more money,
right?
Because of the ratings, you can go back and maybe get a little more money. But yeah.
So your company that you own now, you're still producing shows?
We're not doing Design Your Life with Style. And, I'm getting tongue tied. No, we're not still doing that show.
Okay.
So
Do you have some things that you're working on behind the scenes now?
I do. Well, yeah, I have a couple of ideas about some things I wanted to do, and actually, I was thinking about maybe talking to Justin about a few things. Maybe who knows? Maybe we could talk about a few things that I want to do.
I love it.
One of the I've always got ideas.
Yeah.
For me,
and you're a kind,
honestly,
and you're a kind person.
But to me, it's also about the people that you're working with.
Right.
Because honestly, I've been offered jobs at places that I don't want to go there because I know the kind of people that work there.
Right.
It's like, I don't want to do that.
And you don't need to.
It's like, I don't want to spend my time working with people that I know maybe they're not good people, or just maybe, they just make your life miserable.
Right.
And I don't want to do that.
And you want to be able to go to a job or work in a place that you feel comfortable, and at the end of the day you feel accomplished too.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. So we're doing I'm doing the morning show at 104.5 WJJK Classic Hits, and it's a great station.
And that's the Greg and Joni show?
Yeah, Mornings with Greg and Joni.
Mornings with Greg and Joni.
Our station is kicking butt right now. I mean, we're like, like the number one station, and I mean, we're just doing great right now.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And it's just, it's a lot of fun, and I like the music. We're, Bob Seger and Aerosmith, and have you listened to 104.5? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's good. It's good. It's fun. It's the kind of thing, too, if people have kids, they can put them in the car and they can listen to, and they're not going to hear anything that's like too offensive.
Too offensive.
You know what I mean? So,
well, I feel like we could go on all day, and I know that you do have a busy schedule, so I don't want to keep you too much longer. But one last thing, what's a message you have to anyone that's listening that either wants to get into this industry, or a message to guys or girls out there that are potentially thinking about trying to follow in your footsteps, which, believe me, would be very hard to do.
Well, I don't know about that. Times are different too. I mean, the whole broadcasting is always changing. If you want to get into this business, though, I would say be prepared, but a lot of it too, be at the right place at the right time. And if there's an opportunity, seize it. So many people, I think, let opportunities just go by.
Right. And
maybe they're self-doubting, or maybe they don't feel like they're prepared. But that's why I'm saying, try to be prepared. Pretend like you might be called in on the greatest job interview in the world tomorrow.
Be prepared.
Are you prepared?
Right.
Be prepared. And then
I think it's an excellent message, because I think it's interesting because you've mentioned it now a couple of times, and prior to us recording too, you said it. But if you're prepared for something, you're now able to attack that situation in a much easier way. If you're not prepared, you're going into it blind, and then you're going to look like shit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so many times things happen so fast. It's like that dream job might be there. And it's like, well, are you prepared?
Right.
It's like, oh crap, I've got to get my resume together.
Yeah. Because I've
got to do this. Right. I've got to do that. And it's like, no, the deadline is now. Right. That is one thing I have learned in broadcasting. It's a very time detailed. It's like now. It's like the show starts. I'll never forget this. When I was at Fox 59, our show started. It started like 2 seconds before the top of the hour. Okay, that's when the show starts, and that show is timed out delicately. You've got from 2 seconds before, every second is totally filled. Okay, when the show starts, the show starts. So we had one of our morning anchors was notorious for running late. So guess what?
Not a good look.
Guess what? They went out to an empty chair. And it's like, well, why did you do that? Because the show starts when the show starts.
Right.
It doesn't, no.
Yeah.
So I think that's a big thing. That's why I said, be
prepared.
Just be prepared.
Be
Pretend
prepared.
like, the greatest job in the world might be knocking on my door at any moment. Am I prepared?
I agree with you 100%. Joni, I have a little gift for you.
Oh,
I know
this
that
has been fun, by
Yes.
the way.
Well,
I'm not used to this, so I'm sorry if I didn't do a great job.
No, and we're still recording. So, but anyway, this is just a little gift because I know you are a true everyday GSD person. You have been for years. I really respect you, and I thank you for coming on the show. And you did tell me you're a hat person, so I'm giving you a hat here, and hopefully you can wear. Hopefully you wear it maybe at the gym. And there's no stalkers there. But
There's no stalkers
but
there.
thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm gonna go ahead and put it on now. I mean, heck,
That's a good one, huh?
does it fit me?
Yeah, it looks great. We'll take some pictures here in a minute.
Yeah.
But thank you very much. I appreciate you.
Thank you. My pleasure.